else. What did you teach yesterday? I know, that was fun.
She was in her tie, wasn't she?
No, I took. Alright, so hey everybody, let's get started. So let's come into either a seated position or into a position where maybe you'd like to lie down on the floor on your back with your knees bent. We are beginning today with some mindful breathing for the body. So that can be seated, it can be lying on your back. If you know that your body would prefer to sit down in a chair today, you can sit down in a chair. For those of us who are choosing to lie down, we do have some props here for us to use. So we could always put a blanket under the head and maybe use it as a pillow. If you are using a blanket under your head, I recommend that you bring that blanket all the way down behind the very tops of your shoulder blades. This is just one way to provide a little more comfort. Thank you so much, Christine, for getting the slides. Perfect.
You always want to have her in your class because she knows all the technical.
Tech support.
Yeah.
Official tech support. For those of you that have a larger bolster or maybe an extra blanket, you can always put this under the knees. I recommend bringing it in so that your knees drape over the far edge of the bolster, and usually that's going to be a little kinder on the curve in the kneecaps. Is that dark? Yeah, I can't really see the video with the lights like that. Oh, what was that one? Well, that one I can see, definitely. That's perfect. Perfect. Okay. So from any easy seated or lying down position, take a moment and just let your body move around in any natural way. So again, you can lie down, you can sit in a chair, and you are free to change your mind at any time. In our next hour or so, as we are experimenting with movement and discovering sensations in the body, remember you always have a choice. This is an opportunity for each of us to develop our own practice as we go. In each breath, we are creating the practice. As different sensations come up in your body, you may want to stay with the sensation and study it. You may want to assume some physical stillness and just study sensation. You may want to try to move through it. You may decide to do things that would intensify that sensation. Or you may want to back away from it. It's always your choice. Just listen to your body. Your body has the most divine intelligence. Simply trust your body, no matter where you are today, no matter what feelings you're having about your body or with your body. The truth is, our bodies have the most divine intelligence, and we have all the peace, all the power, and all the love in us and all around us to heal. Notice any reaction to that statement. I have all the love, all the peace, and all the power in me and all around me to heal. Notice if there's any resistance to that statement. Just notice and let go of any judgment, of any reaction. Maybe there's a part of us that says, this is not true for me. Okay, that's all right. What we experience as real is not always true. It's not always in alignment with the divine intelligence that we come from, that we are part of, and that which we return to. For the next nose or your mouth, let's take the path of least resistance as we begin our practice. Inhaling through the nose or the mouth, notice, where does the breath go? What is the place that is most open to receive the breath today in your body? And maybe in the next few easy breaths, we feel parts of the body softening around that space. Wherever that place is, wherever the breath is going, that's the path of least resistance. Let's allow the breath to expand out from that place. We may sense a little bit of effort. That's okay. Let's give the breath a little more character today. Let's give it a color. Your body might reveal to you a color preference, or you're welcome to experiment. I'm choosing the color gold today, an amber gold energy. As we inhale, acknowledge that you are immersed in your breath right now. Each breath that we take begins all around us. We're in it. So maybe have a sense of, or a knowing of a presence, of a gold vaporescent light or energy that you're in right now. And as we inhale, we draw that energy, we draw that gold light into the body, and we can just watch it. Just notice, where does it go? The energy may move down into the lungs, or it could go up into the middle of the brain. We may begin to follow the breath as we watch it based on its more physical presence, or we may see it more based on its energetic presence. Acknowledge any part of your body that's in pain today. Any part of your body that's hurting, any place that is achy, any place that is uncomfortable. And as we acknowledge these places, maybe it's the whole body, try speaking to your body, I feel you. I feel you. I see you. Acknowledging the presence of the feeling. As we move forward in our practice, I'll be referring to different sensations in the body as distracting sensations, discomforts, comfort. I will rarely use the word pain as we move forward. Keeping in mind, we're not ignoring the sensation of pain. We're simply practicing shifting our perspective, just calling it something different, and maybe we'll look at it a different way. We're not denying its presence. Let's practice shaping the breath just a little more in the body. You're welcome to stay exactly where you are. Again, remember, you can shift and move at any time to create more comfort in your body. We may want to put the hands over our belly or over the center of the chest. Let's encourage the breath to move into the body and down into the hips, the low back, and the belly. Sensing that the breath is expanding 360 degrees in the abdomen. So we're rounding out the belly as we breathe. If there's any discomfort at all with this breath, maybe encourage spaces around the discomfort. So what does it feel like to maybe breathe just down into your left hip? Down into the right hip. Maybe the belly stays still and we breathe into the low back. Let's explore the space a little higher in the lungs, breathing into the middle back along the sides of the spine. Breathing into the sides of the body by the ribs. Breathing into the space under the armpits. Breathing into the space behind the heart. Maybe we begin to shape the breath, moving it diagonal. What happens if we breathe down into the right hip, through the belly, and then up to the left chest? Exhale, relax the left shoulder, relax the belly, and relax the right hip. Let's try it on the other side. Breathing down into the left hip, through the mid-belly, and then up to the right chest and shoulder. Exhale, softening the shoulder, the belly, and the hip. Let's practice 3-part breath along the sides of the spine, breathing down into the low back, middle back, breathing up under the shoulder blades or even behind your heart. Exhale, softening from the top down, relaxing the shoulders, the middle back, the low back, and the hips. Let's practice 3-part breath along the sides of the lungs. Let's practice both first. Breathe down into the tops of both hips on your side body, up through the side ribs, and then under the armpits. Exhale, softening the shoulders, the waist, the hips and low back. Let's breathe maybe that 3-part breath just along the left side of the body. And as you inhale up along the left side of the body, imagine that you're breathing in more of a blue light this time, a silvery blue light, a cooling energy. And we'll inhale low into the left lung, through the sideways, up to the left chest, shoulder, and armpit, and then we'll exhale, let it go. You can stay there at any time if you discover that your body really likes something, you can stay with it. We can try shifting over to the right side of the body, and maybe we even shift the color, shifting to red as we inhale into the right side of the body, breathing in this deep ruby red light down into the right hip, through the right waist, all the way up into the right shoulder and armpit, and then release that red light. If you'd like to maybe just practice another layer of visualization. Breathe into both lungs, seeing those 2 streams of energy. Blue on the left, red on the right. And as we inhale, we fill the lungs from the bottom to the top with those lights. And then as we exhale, we relax from the top down and we release those currents of energy out from the hips and pelvis. Let's take just maybe half of a quiet minute for us to listen to our bodies and observe the breath. Also observing just a little bit of quiet time. as a courtesy, as a reminder, throughout the class, you get to choose in each moment what you feel is right for you. This is a place to experiment, to stay curious. You may want to lie down or sit for the entire class. You do not have to do anything. Simply be present. Keep bringing your awareness back to the body and back to the breath. If the body gets very distracting, think about the breath. If the breath gets distracting, think about the body. Let's become aware of the space between our fingers and toes. And no matter where we are, I invite you to begin just a little bit of movement in your fingers and toes, just wiggling the fingers and the toes a tiny bit. To become more aware of the hands, no matter where we are, we may want to lift the left hand, just hover it from wherever we are, wiggle the fingers. We may even want to roll out the wrist a little bit. We notice any little snap, crackle, or pops. Just know that that is really common. As long as there aren't any bright lights, nausea, or vomiting with that snap, crackle, pop. It's really common for the body to be a little musical. Let's relax that hand, maybe lift the right hand, just hover it from wherever you are. Wiggle the fingers, notice the space. Maybe even web the fingers out to make space between the fingers. And then we may want to roll out the wrist. Again, any little sounds that the body makes are very common here, as long as we simply sense what's going on in the body. Are we creating more or less comfort? In some cases, it is recommended that we move with the discomfort, especially in cases of arthritis, where we're recommended to move, even though it might be uncomfortable. We move to lubricate the joint, but you get to choose what's right for you in this moment. As different sensations arise, you get to decide, do you want to stay with it or move away from it? We can relax our hands and shift awareness to the left foot. And depending on where you are, you may want to reposition your feet just a little bit. We can wiggle our toes. And if it's comfortable, we can maybe lift that left foot off the floor and circle out the ankle a little bit. Remember, you can change your mind at any time. You can lie down or come up seated at any time. If it feels right for your body, switching sides, lowering the left foot, lifting the right, wiggling the toes, circling out through the ankle a little bit. Eventually relaxing the foot. Now, for those of us who might be seated, I'd like to show you a way for us to safely come down onto the floor. That way we can maybe meet in a position where we're lying on our back to further work with some range of motion with as little pressure in the body as possible. To come down into lying on our backs from seated, we would just sway our knees over to one side, and we walk our hands down to the floor, walking our bodies down into a side lying position, and then we roll over onto our backs. At this point, we may want to have something under the head or the neck for comfort. From wherever you are, let's consider bending both knees, having both feet flat on the floor. And if we have any props or any yoga supplies around us, we might want to just be aware of where they are and maybe just scoop that stuff out of the way so we can make some space for some carefree movement. With our knees bent, spine touching the floor, let's let the knees sway a little bit left and right. Less is more. Moving nice and slow with the body. I've never heard anyone say, I moved so slow and with so much awareness that I got hurt in yoga class. I've never heard that. So we're just going to take things nice and slow with the body. The slower we go, the more opportunity there is for us to be aware of any sensations that the body might want to reveal to us. Opportunities to discover where there may be more or less comfort for us. At some point, you may want to bring those knees to stillness. Let's draw our left knee in towards the chest, just hovering the foot over the floor, and then maybe bringing it in a little closer. We could always bring both hands behind that left knee or around that left thigh. As we inhale, feel that the leg slightly moves away from the abdomen. And then exhale, feel the leg drawing closer to the belly. So we're just going to practice a little bit of expansion, contraction with some very subtle hip movement here. Inhale, the foot and the knee move away. Exhale, we may draw it in just a little bit more. Let's try that just a couple more times. Inhale, lower belly, expanding, exhale, softening the belly, thigh coming in towards the chest. Let's take our time to place the left foot down on the floor. And maybe just notice any subtle differences in the body from left to right. There may or may not be a difference in sensation in the hips and low back. We can experiment with the right side by drawing the right knee in towards the chest. Hands might be around the thigh. We could always cover that right leg also. Point or flex your toe for comfort. Inhale, feeling that that right leg relaxes away from the body. And then exhale, the right knee ever so gently comes in. We can match the movement to the breath, or you can move in any organic way. Sometimes we can feel rushed by the breath, so just notice what feels right for your body. If we're noticing any tightness or discomfort in the hips and low back, maybe breathe out from the throat. Breathe out with a ha breath, almost as if you're trying to fog a mirror. The right side of the body tends to hold a little more heat, and sometimes heat can contribute to inflammation. So we're just gently maybe releasing some of those energetic currents that can release heat. Release it with the breath. You can stay with this or release that right foot down to the floor. We have the
those knees sway again, swaying left and right, nice and slow. As the knees sway over to the right, maybe lift up the right arm and drape it across your chest, looking over your left shoulder. Let's bring the right hand over to the right side of the body, so we're centering the torso. Bring the knees through center. Let the knees sway over to the left. And now try bringing the left hand over the body and looking over to the right. Let's bring the left hand to neutral along the left side of the body, knees through neutral. And we can keep this really nice and slow. We can dissect the lower body from the upper body, so maybe we sway the knees, then we move the arms. Or you may want to experiment with moving the legs and the arms simultaneously. So as the knees move through center, we can twist. Maybe knees go to the left while both arms go to the right. And then through center, both knees to the right, arms over to the left. Opportunity to match the breath to the movement. Exhale on the twist. Inhale when the knees and the arms move through center. We may even want to move the arms only or the knees only. So you can always dissect these rotation type movements, and that may make us aware of different sensations in the body. We might notice that rotation in the lower body creates discomfort, or maybe it's just rotation in the upper body that creates discomfort. Let's experiment maybe one more time on each side. And again, you're welcome to stay with that twist. You can hold it on one side if you'd like to study a sensation in your body. From here, you are welcome to find any neutral position, and you can draw both knees in towards the chest, holding on with the hands on the outsides of the thighs or behind the knees, just for a moment. Knees to chest pose. Let's practice that ha breath, where we're releasing the breath as if we're fogging a mirror, and maybe imagine you're breathing in blue light and breathing out red light and heat. Inhaling through the nose or mouth, and then exhaling. Now maybe notice if your body wants to experiment with sound. I'm going to practice what is called the ha breath, ha breath. And I promise I will always say ha louder than you, so that you're liberated to make a sound. And if you want to take it as a competition or a challenge for ha, you're welcome to try to match me. But it is meant to be audible. Please feel free to experiment. There's no judgment here. We're just experimenting with sound, and notice any sensations that may shift in your body. Let's try it together. I will count to 3. So take a big breath in. And 1, 2, 3, ha. Ha. Great. Let's try it a couple more times. Inhale. 1, 2, 3. Ha. Great. One more time. Big breath in. Ha breath. 1, 2, 3. Ha. intuitively, if it feels right for the body, experiment with bringing the arms up and overhead. It can be one arm or both arms. Let's feel that the breath is steady, mainly in the center of the chest. Imagining that the heart can function like a single lung in the center of your chest. As we inhale, we feel the breath expanding in the center of the chest. Exhale, softening the heart space. Trying that maybe 3 or 4 more times. The energy of the heart is represented by the color green in color therapy. So we might even begin to notice the presence of an orb of light or an energy that is green in the center of the chest. And as we inhale, that green energy expands. As we exhale, it just ever so softly contracts. And maybe here we affirm to ourselves, I am open. And you can expand on that information. What is it that we might want to learn from the heart with that? I am open to speaking to the body, informing the body. What are we open to here?
I am open to new ways of living, new ways of being. I'm open to new sensations. I'm open to change. I'm open to healing. I'm open to the possibility that there is no cure. I am open to living with this. From this open place, let's take a moment to consider how we may want to make our way up into seated if we're choosing to come to seated today. So I do have recommendations of ways to come to seated. Of course, if you are working with another therapist, you may have already discovered other ways that your body likes to work. Please do what's best for you. If you are curious today in some different approaches or ways to come to seated, first, notice if it feels more comfortable to swing your knees to the left or the right. If you know that you're swinging your knees over to the right, walk your feet to the left edge of your mat, then push into your feet to slide the hips, and we're going to roll over to the right hand side. If it's more comfortable to sway the knees to the left, walk your feet over to the right. This positioning of the feet before we sway, it directly leads into alignment of the spine, preventing injury in the spine. From our side lying position, we'll take our top arm, and we might roll all the way over to put pressure into the elbow. So maybe we push into our elbows first, or into that top hand to bring ourselves up about halfway. And from this halfway point, we can continue to use the hands to bring the body around into seated. From seated, we may want to bring the hips up a little bit. We could create a perch with our blanket, bolster. As we create that perch, we may want to experiment with sitting on the edge of that perch. So we might feel like an active shift or a rolling of the hips. When we sit on the edge of that perch, what's happening is we're creating more of a tilt in the pelvis. This is encouraging more of a neutral low back. That's what we're doing here. Of course, at any time, you can change your mind. Now, one of the most common discomforts in our society with bodies is low back pain and hip pain. What I like to do sometimes is to really look at back pain in particular, and truly, even if it's pain in the shoulders, it could be because of pressure in the low back moving up. So what you could try is, if you have a blanket, what I like to do is take my blanket, and you can also do this with some yoga mats. I like to take it from this long rectangular shape, roll it up. You can roll it pretty tight if you want. And then from there, start to coil it in. As we coil this blanket in, we want to keep a noticeable space in the middle of that coil. So you're kind of making a donut. If you have a traditional, let's say these traditional Mexican blankets, they're a little thicker. So what you can do is take your blanket and just go like this on each side, and it'll keep the coil in the middle, kind of like this. It doesn't have to touch. It can stay open as well. So it can be like a semicircle type shape. So ultimately what we're doing is we're creating some support for the body where the tailbone is going to go in the middle of that coil, while the rest of the blanket is going to lift the buttocks, and you might even be able to kind of move the fleshy muscles along your buttocks, also known as your butt cheeks. Does anyone get tired of the formalities in yoga teaching sometimes? Anyone?
I usually just say glute.
Move your gluteus maximus always.
Lift your tailbone.
Lift your tailbone. All right. Now from here, notice if there's any difference in the sensation in the hips. Did that change anything for anyone? And when I ask if there's a change, notice, does it feel better or worse for you? Does it feel like there's more comfort or less comfort? If you're noticing that this is not agreeable, if your body says, I don't like it, then get out of it, right? Maybe stay for 3 breaths to decide if it's right for you. Sometimes when sensations are new, we're too quick to judge. We're too quick to say that's not for me. So maybe just stay and close your eyes, breathe with it. Sometimes trying new poses for me is like trying new food. I look at it, smell it, taste it, and then you kind of go, is this for me? So experience this with all of your senses. Move around. How does it feel when you're still? How does it feel when you move? How does it feel when you move your jaw? We know there's an intimate connection between the jaw, the hips, and the low back. So relax your jaw. Does that make a difference even? Let's reposition our legs. Do your legs want to stay out? Or do they want to cross? Do you want to shift forward or back? Keeping in mind there's no right or wrong place to be. This is all about discovery. From wherever we want to experiment, let's come to any point, and as we inhale, let's turn the palms up, bringing the elbows in towards the waist. And as we inhale, allowing the arms to float up, only as high as the body says, I am in agreement with this, listening to the body. As we exhale, we'll slowly take the arms back and around. Option to close the eyes. Vision is incredible. Vision can actually be very helpful in managing discomforts in the body, but vision can also be distracting in a negative way. Sometimes when we close the eyes, the brain is too busy processing the environment and not so much processing sensations. Only you can decide when it's right for you to close or open your eyes. Following the breath, inhale, creating rhythm between the flow of the body with the breath. You can, at any time, exhale from the throat, again releasing heat, eventually coming to a still point with the body. Let's take the hands, we can place them anywhere near the floor or on top of the knees. Let's add in just a little bit of opening and closing of the belly. Just for now, we are relaxing our chin down enough so that an egg can roll off your head. So we're using just a little bit of a tilt of the head down to relax the back of the neck. From here, come forward, lead with your ribs, and pull the ribs up. As we inhale, we may want to look straight ahead or maybe lift the chin just a little bit. Seated cow pose. As we exhale, let's pull the belly in. It may go to neutral, or we may begin to round the middle back, and we can drop the head and the neck. Seated cat. Inhale, coming through neutral, leading with the belly. Option to lift the head and the neck. Exhale, pulling the navel back, dropping the head and the neck. Now, I know some of us in here are very familiar with cat and cow. You've done it, you've taught it a million times. I encourage you to please listen to your body right now and notice, is your body craving that more traditional expression of cat and cow, or do you want to stick with this and experiment today? If we're choosing to experiment maybe with cat and cow on all fours, let's just take a moment to examine the transition from seated to all fours with hopefully the least bit of effort. To go from seated to all fours, we may want to have both of our knees bent. And if I'm going to sway my knees to the left, again, I'm walking my feet to the right. So whichever way it's comfortable to sway the knees, the feet go in the opposite direction. From here, I can roll to my hip using my arms and my hands as support, and then I can push off that gentle perch to come onto my hands and knees for the cat and cow flow. And again, this more traditional expression is completely optional. You're welcome to stay seated with cat and cow flow. Looking at our base of support, if we're experiencing any discomfort in the hands, the wrists, or the shoulders, you could always bring in that perch and elevate the wrist. This is going to change the amount of pressure in the wrist. Angular pressure. When we are flat on the floor, almost at 90 degrees, that's a lot for the wrist. If the blanket is uncomfortable, lots of options, y'all. Yoga buffet. So you can instead roll up the top edge of the mat. I personally like the spongy mat instead. And you can elevate your wrist with your mat instead. Then you can use your blanket under your knees. Practice just gets yummier and yummier. Also come down to the elbows. Lots of options. If we're dealing with any blood pressure issues, which is really common, there are a lot of different medications that interfere with blood pressure. So we may want to be on our elbows, but we may not want to be inverted. Use those yoga blocks under the elbows so you can keep head in line with the heart in line with the hips. Let's take this into our cat and cow flow. Allow your body to express it in any way. So I'm encouraging that we experiment hinging from the belly to initiate the movement. There's two different ways to do cat and cow. You can hinge from the belly to initiate the movement, inhaling into cow, dropping the belly, lengthening through the spine, and then exhaling into cat. Or this can be done initiating the movement from your tailbone. So if you're coming from neutral, you gently tilt the tailbone back and then slowly open the belly. Last of all, shoulders pulling back towards the hips and lengthening through the neck. As we exhale, we pull the tailbone down, gently rounding each vertebra. Last of all, dropping the head and the neck. Now, take your time to experiment with the two of these. And notice if your body is leaning towards either one of those are feeling really familiar with this, you are welcome to use a yoga block between the knees and the thighs as we continue to experiment. You would be squeezing that block on your exhale, moving into cat. Softening the thighs as we inhale into cow. Squeezing the block as we move into cat. Softening on the inhale, breathing in through the nose as much as possible, knowing that it is common to maybe notice some effort when we breathe in through the nose, and if we're not used to it, it might feel like a lot of effort. And that's okay. Breathe in as much as possible through the nose, and at any time, if we feel that it's better for us, we can breathe in through the mouth. For those of us who maybe hold a lot of tension in our shoulders or back, try relaxing your jaw. The more you relax your jaw, the more potential there is to relax the low back and hips. Cranial sacral connection, cranial sacral therapy. Let's practice just a few more of these. Absolutely no rush. We have a saying in the South. I think they have it in the North too. Take your sweet time. Take your sweet time with it. Take your time to even this out. Let's find neutral spine. And we'll slowly take that block out in front of the body, pressing the hips back towards the heels. And again, moving nice and slow. So notice at any point if your knees say no. Notice if your knees say, I don't think so. No. Notice if your low back says no. Allow your body to tell you no, and listen to your body when it says no. We may want to reach the arms dynamically out in front of us, extended child's pose. We may want to pull the hands back. If you'd like to experiment with a little belly press today, just take a moment and position yourself where you're able to see me for the belly press. If you've had restorative, you've done this before, you can always take your blanket and place it over the tops of the thighs. I like to roll mine up just a little bit. And then as we come down, we allow the belly, the lower abdomen, to fold over that blanket. If you want, you can pick up your intestines and drape it over the blanket. That's right, you heard me. Pick up your intestines. With this belly press, notice any sensations in the abdomen. If it feels invasive, or if you're noticing a lot of pressure, ease up on that pose. Maybe make the fold in the blanket smaller, so there's just a hint of sensation in the abdomen. This is a technique that we use sometimes to help flush stress hormones out of the belly, or even to soften the psoas. Let's practice a few long exhales here, inhaling through the nose or the mouth, and then long exhale. Couple more. Let the body sigh. You know, our body will sigh naturally, right? After we have overcome some sort of a stressor, the body just goes, ah, thank God it's over, right? It's a two-way street. That sigh is intimately coupled to the relaxation response. So is it possible that we sigh and then we feel relaxed? Try a couple more. If you notice that you are resisting sound, just know that that could be a contributing factor to pain. Sound is an energy that resides in the upper energies, the upper chakras that are in the throat. And if we're resisting sound, we might be tensing the muscles in that space, and that tension could be affecting the whole body. So what do you have to lose by trying? If you're resisting sound at all, take a moment, check in with yourself. Is it that there really is no sound there? Or is it possible that we're resisting an opportunity to let go? So I'm going to encourage that we say ah instead of ha. Ha is different from just ah. I'm going to encourage just a nice ah sound here. Let's try it together if you like. Big inhale. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Let's try one more. Big inhale. 1, 2, 3. Ah. Good. Now remember, you don't have to move. You can stay here if it feels right for your body. If you think you might want to move, take a moment and shift forward. Let's take our blanket just away from the hips. Bring it off to the side of your body. Swing your feet over to the left or the right, and then sit back. So we're going to move into a very gentle stretch using our yoga bolster. As we draw our bolster in, let's reposition the body so that we have our knees off to one side, and we're going to have our hip in the center of the mat, our feet behind us. And we're just going to practice a very gentle twist here. So, I apologize. Take the bolster and turn it lengthwise, coming out of your hip. So it's the same length as the mat, in the same direction as the mat. From this side-seated position, let's take our outside arm. We're going to call this the inside arm. Whatever arm is closest to your bolster, let's take the outside arm. Doesn't matter left or right at this point, right? Because your body gets to choose. Outside arm, palm is up. Inhale, take it back and around. And let's just make a few circles with that outside arm. Now notice, is the trunk of the body moving with the arm? Or is it possible to move just the arm without the trunk of the body? So we're going to notice, where is the body able to dissect movement in different body parts? And maybe if we notice that the trunk of the body is moving, is it doing that because it's a habit? With awareness, can we dissect the movements? If there's any discomfort in our shoulders, maybe we bend that elbow, and maybe this circle motion is with an elbow, just an elbow. The bigger movement is not the better movement. Sometimes in our yoga practices and in exercise, we have this belief system of more is better. We're examining less is more. The advanced version of this, everybody always perks up when I say that. The advanced version is to lift the edges of your mouth and smile through it all. That's it. That's the advanced version in everything in life. I want to do better at this. Smile through it. Now, if you notice an expression on your face, like if your face feels kind of constipated, that means your body doesn't like this. So don't do it. If you want, reverse that circle and maybe make it a little bigger. Maybe move the trunk of the body with it. We may want to stay seated upright from this point on. For those of you who are getting familiar with different restorative postures, I would like for you to be able to see where this could go if you want to experiment with this. So this is going to work with what we call a spiral line of fascia in the body. This spiral line connects intimately from the back of the heels, up the legs. It goes diagonal with the psoas across the shoulders. It's stretching all of the fascia in the body that basically stitches us up like this, just like tightening into the upper part of the lung, expanding the ribs, creating just a little more length in the spine. Inhale, hold that breath, and then begin to gently rotate, only as far as the body permits. At this point, we may want to reposition the bolster a little bit more in alignment with the heart. It doesn't have to be directly tracking with the heart. From here, we're lowering that outside arm, and we're going to gently walk our hands down onto the floor, walking our hands a little bit more down or out on the floor, and slowly begin to lower the chest and the heart onto that bolster. You can turn your head in the same direction as the knees. You could also bring your hands up onto the bolster and maybe place your forehead on your hands if that's comfortable. Of course, we can experiment with turning the head the opposite direction. That's going to really bring that spiral line up through the side of the head and the crown of the head. You might even feel it tugging behind your eyeball a little bit. So take a moment and experiment, and then let your body choose where is there the most comfort. If you have your knees to the right, chances are your right lung is the most open. If you have your knees to the left, your left lung is probably going to be more open. So depending on where your body is, we're going to manipulate some energy channels with the breath. Whichever lung is most open, breathe into that lung, then pause and imagine the breath shifting down towards the earth, into the other lung. Exhale from that place. If your right lung is open, breathe along the right side of your spine, pause, shift the breath into the left lung, and then breathe out from that left lung. If your knees are to the left, do the opposite. If knees are to the left, breathe into the left lung, pause, shift the breath to the right, breathe out of the right lung. Let's become aware of any sensations that might be revealing themselves in the body. And while we're here, keep in mind that you do not have to do this pose on both sides. We do not have to do everything on the left side of the body that we do to the right side of the body. So if you're really comfortable here, and maybe if you've never experimented with a practice like this before, maybe just stay where you are. You don't have to switch sides. Now, if you're curious and you want to switch sides, you can be curious and stay or curious and switch. Either way, right? So, if you are curious to switch, draw the hands in, slowly come up. To safely transition, turn your back towards your knees. You're going to turn your back away from your bolster, and then let the knees sway to the other side. Let's experiment with moving the shoulders a little bit. So again, we might want to sweep the arm. We may want to circle with the elbow. Truly, you can move in any direction. Let your body and your breath be the guides here. Maybe wait for the breath. When it's time to inhale, then it's time Since your body has already had an opportunity to experiment with where this could go, take your sweet time getting into the pose and take this anywhere you think you want to go with it. The one thing I do recommend is that we pause for a moment and we breathe into that outer upper lung so we can create as much length in the spine as possible. That way, when we do begin to twist, we know that we've created optimal space between the vertebra to prevent squishing the disc in the spine. Once we create that small rotation wherever it is, and I do recommend keeping it small, apart from what your body is capable of doing, back out of that effort. Only do half your effort, and then slowly begin to guide the body down. Keeping in mind we have lots of options for head placement. We could even put our hands up on the bolster as additional support. You could put your hands behind you, palms up or down. Sometimes this creates some different sensations also. Whatever part of the lung is most open, we're breathing into that space. At the top of the breath, we pause. Notice an energy that can shift into the other lung towards the earth, and then release from that place. Soften the jaw. While we're here, we can play with a unique mudra. Now, oftentimes, mudras, we think of them as just with the hands, but really, all body positions are mudras. If you like, take the tip of your tongue and touch it, just the tip of your tongue. Touch it to your gum line, just behind your two front teeth. This is a type of bandha as well. This gesture, this mudra with the tongue and the jaw, it's a unique lock energy. Jiva bandha. When you do this, tip of the tongue behind the two front teeth along the gum line, this is a technique used to relax or disengage the muscles in the jaw. So notice now as you inhale through the nose and exhale from the throat, feel the air just sort of pressing out through the pockets of your cheeks, the breath filtering out from the sides of the mouth. The very middle of the bottom lip is completely relaxed. Again, noticing where the body is, what the body prefers, and you do not have to move again at all at this point. If you think that you want to stay in this position, please listen to your body. We all have very different lives. We've all had very different weeks, different nights' sleep last night. You may have eaten breakfast or not eaten breakfast, so that affects the way we feel as well. So do what you feel is right for you. Surely we don't all need the same yoga practice. If you're very comfortable where you are, I encourage you to stay here a little longer. Stay here a little longer. If you think that your body has had enough of this, take your sweet time to reposition the body so you can come out of the pose. We're going to move into our final relaxation and meditation at this point. And you could stay exactly where you are for final relaxation and meditation. If you think you'd like to try something a little different, take your sweet time repositioning yourself. I am going a resting place, it usually prefers a little pillow or blanket by your bottom hip. So if you're curious in experimenting with that, just stay where you are. And I am going to come by. I'll just gently tap you on the shoulder. I'll make sure that you can see me first. And I'll ask you if you'd like to have a blanket or something close to you. And if you don't want it, you can just give me the look and tell me no. I understand the look. And if you think you want to experiment, just kind of give me your bright-eyed little head nod. All right, so for me, I'm going to come around right now. I'm at the front of the room. I haven't moved, but I'm going to be walking over towards Lisa first, and then I'll come around the room for anyone who might want to have some additional support. Hey, Lisa, did you want to try a little bit by your hip? So I'm going to take this and we're rolling it up, and then we're just going to wedge it under your hip a little bit. So I'm right there by you, and this is the back of my hand. This is the front of my hand. I'm just going to push a little bit, and I'm sticking this blanket under your hip. All right? Yeah, okay. So I am moving again to the front of the room, and I'll be seated for the next 10 minutes or so in our guided meditation. And at any time, if you want to move, if you feel like you would like some additional props in your practice, you are more than welcome to move at any time, and you're more than welcome to just kind of raise your hand, and I will come directly to you to offer any support possible. Let's take a moment to acknowledge where the body is right now in space and time, maybe even in our minds, simply recollecting where we are. Where are we positioned in the room? Perhaps even softly expressing to our bodies, to our hearts, to the soul, directions. Hear the word or the sound, ah, and on the exhale, hear the sound, ta, without having to make an audible sound, simply allowing this sound or this voice to come from the mind space. Inhaling ah, exhaling ta. Busier our minds, sometimes the more we may want to layer some of these techniques with the breath. Inhaling ah, exhaling ta, we may also want to add a color to this. So as we inhale the sound ah, inhaling a lovely silvery gray blue light, exhaling ta, exhaling red light. And your body might assign different colors to the breath. Just go with it. Just go with it. Inhaling ah, exhaling ta. Inhaling blue, exhaling red. Let's take the next quiet 3 minutes to simply breathe with the body. Breathe into those spaces where there is the least resistance. When we inhale the color blue, where does that color go? And when we exhale red, where does the breath come from when we exhale? through the nostrils, breathing in through both nostrils. And maybe just a little bit more effort with the breath so that we can ever so gently awaken the body with the expansion and contraction of the lungs. There is this phenomenon in a lot of yoga classes where as soon as we get to the end, then the body relaxes. It happens a lot. If you know that your body has just gotten to that place, please stay here. You do not have to move. We have plenty of time. If your body is telling you, okay, I'd like to shift, I'd like to move a little, notice what part of the body speaks first. It could be the toes or the fingers. We are all in very different positions right now, so listen to your body as to what feels right for you. For those of you who are lying in the bolster, we've practiced how to come up and how to swing the knees around, so just take your time. And again, you don't have to come up. If you're lying flat on the floor, we've practiced this as well. You may want to bend one knee at a time and let the hips or knees sway a little bit. You don't have to come up. If you suspect that it's time for your body to come up, if that's what your body is telling you, please take your time to come up into any easy position for your body. If you know your body wants to stay, stay exactly where you are. You do not have to come up as we close this class. We have plenty of time. Whether you're seated or lying down, if you feel inspired to move the hands in a different way, you can. From seated, I really enjoy Dhyana Mudra. For those of us who maybe identify more with a feminine energy, we can take the right hand into the lap and put the left hand on top. And if you feel more that you're identifying more with like a male or a masculine energy today, put the left hand on the bottom and the right hand on top. We're keeping the palms open and up, and then we're just touching the tips of the thumbs together. Dhyana Mudra. Relaxing the shoulders, lengthening through the spine, the chin is down. Let's deepen the breath together, exhaling with those sighs of relief. If you'd like to practice with me, Anuloma Krama. This is sometimes also known as a crying breath. It's a breathing technique that can just create some different feelings in the body, neither good nor bad, just different. To do this technique, it's a series of very small inhales, and we hold just for a moment, and then there's a long sigh. If you're still getting familiar with some of these yoga terms and yoga breaths, you are invited to watch me. I'll do it a couple of times, and then you can join in with me or join in with me. We begin with an exhale, and then a few quick inhales. A few quick inhales. You are also welcome to lift your chin. We don't have to keep chin down. You don't have to keep the throat locked. If you'd like to try a few more, go ahead. Exhaling all the way. It begins with the chin down. A few quick inhales with a pause. Inhale. Pause. You might lift the chin. You might take another sip of breath. Exhale. And then maybe another if it feels right for you. Again, this is called Anuloma Prana. From wherever you are, hands may stay in dhyana or come to the heart as our final closing gesture. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells, a place of infinite love and infinite light. We are all in this place together. Peace with us all. Namaste, ladies.
Namaste.
You do not have to move. You don't have to jump up and go anywhere. I'm just going to turn off our video for a moment. Class was about 1 hour and 20 minutes.